The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
All right, buddy. What's up? Good morning.
GM Body, welcome back.
Hey guys, thanks.
I'm seeing Zano questions pop up already. Guys, save the questions for when Zano's up so we don't miss them. Zergo tipped $5, very generous. Thank you so much. According to Amir Taki, the ring technology Zano relies on is broken and Monero has moved on from. For CF layer tests, it uses Oracle. That is third-party custodial risk. Is it not?
We'll just save these for once the debate starts.
We'll save those for later. So please re-ask that question later on, Zargo.
Take it away, buddy.
Take it away.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. Not much has happened since we left off. Actually, I think Tux, you did a price report. I still have yet to take a look at it, but I'm sure it was good.
Quote, price report.
I'm sure it was good, man. I mean, we look at the same stuff every week here, so I'm sure you've got a feel for the kind of things I'm looking at. So I'm sure that you did a good job there. But yeah, I'm curious to take a look at it. I mean, Monero is basically like pretty much where we left off. We had some volatility, things pumped to the upside early on in December. We finally sort of caught up a little bit to what the rest of the market was doing. We got capped out by the obvious areas here at the upper standard deviation bands. And, I find it interesting. This chart actually has a lot of this, whether on the short term or the long time frame. You'll notice you get these big dips, right? So obviously this was the Binance delisting, and then you set a higher high, okay, and then it come back to the top side, and we get these big wicks down. We just keep getting these big smash downs, but they always recover, right? And they keep recovering to a higher level at each time. So right now we keep recovering sort of to this $200 level, right around this area. So all that's pretty good. That's a good sign. Another thing that we're looking at here is the volume on Kraken. And another good sign that I'm liking is that we've actually seen the volume slowly dropping off after the pump in December. And particularly the volume has been dropping off here for the past couple weeks, even as price is slowly meandering to the upside. Usually after some big volatility movement and then the volume drops off, the direction of the price movement, especially if it's up, can be a really good sign because it basically means that you still have this light, even though the volume has dropped off, you still have this light buying pressure, right? So that tells you that the purchasing happens on the buy side or is happening on the buy side. So that's definitely something that man, I don't know what I just did, but I think I just screwed up the volume. Let's just delete it. Okay. So that is a good sign. Hopefully we see a little bit more positive action. I do think it could be a little bit of a tall order here to get above the 220 range for the meantime. But that doesn't mean that it can't happen later on. It also doesn't mean it couldn't happen just like right now. I mean, the thing is, Monero's low enough market cap and has low enough liquidity that it just really takes a few big name people or big money people trying to buy consistently get into the market, right? And we have seen a lot more people over the course of time, bigger names, right, in the crypto space that are starting to get into Monero. They're talking about how they're accumulating Monero, right? And probably that has a lot to do with some of this positive action, including the bull market as well. So yeah, I mean, again, optimistic there. I'm hoping, maybe we can set some higher spikes up to the top side. Obviously, we know that the cabal doesn't want that to happen. In fact, I was looking at the price divergences just now. And if we take away the volume adjustment, we see Bitfinex is currently about 1% down from Kraken prices. So that's so weird. It's so weird for me when I see these big divergences like Poloniex, whether to the upside or the downside. When you see 1% price divergences between exchanges, I'm like, wait, arbitrage bots should be equalizing that to within, let's just say 0.25% or less. It should be, especially because the usually fees for trading on these platforms are like 0.25%. So like, okay, maybe 0.25%, maybe 0.5% isn't quite enough to justify the arbitrage bots going into action. But when you're at a 1% price divergence, you really think, hey, why is this not closing yet? One thing that we do here on this chart, and I've made this public, you guys if you just go search my if you go search my name, Baudianicus, on TradingView, you can take a look at this chart yourself. I click this little option right here, make volume adjustment. We factor volume into it because if you're an exchange that's doing basically no volume, do we really care what your price divergence is? Not really. I mean, slightly, you know, because it kind of tells us about who you are. But making the volume adjustment really helps us to see whether or not big volume is being done at price divergences on these exchanges. So right now, KuCoin actually looks to be doing higher prices than Kraken with, I wouldn't say like massive volume, but, you know, some level of volume there. So, okay, we can also take a look at the XMR versus Bitcoin ratio, and we seem to be stabilizing, you know, after the big crush that happened early last year, right about the same time last year almost. And we're kind of like sitting here, in these lower standard deviation bands, and effectively, that's a good sign. Like, that's a good sign that things are starting to stabilize there. We are still looking at these bands kind of curling towards the downside. So that is still not the best. This is not the best looking chart in the world. It's not as like terrible as it kind of was during the month of November. Really, this chart was looking in the month of November like the potential for this could have been happening. So really happy that kind of stabilized a little bit. Who knows where it's going to go though. Like I've said before, it's hard for me to think this is the top of the market. It's really difficult for me to think that this is the very top of, you know, the Bitcoin cryptocurrency bull market here. You know, hopefully from this point on, you know, Monero can keep up with the rest of the cryptocurrency market. That's a dubious proposition when so much degeneracy is happening with the money printing and the tether printing and all the printing and all the speculation and the Doge pumping and all the people, the unnamed people. They were named yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw Doug's show yesterday, but there was some talk about Mr. Musk and what role he might be playing in different kinds of ways and across different domains. But anyways, the point is to say that, yeah, it's difficult to think that crazy degeneracy pumps won't continue happening if the bull market is still on. And I think it, at least for the meantime, it probably still is on. Perhaps it gets sort of punctuated for a moment by a macro crash, but the macro crash is not here yet. So, okay, yeah, here's XMR versus ETH. We look at ETH because it's the number 2 coin. Also kind of stabilizing here in these lower standard deviation bands. Let's see here. Just checking some comments, make sure we don't have any, I didn't miss anything. Let's see. Astrology for men. Yeah, bro. Bardic Reels, you should, I guess I can't point you to any specific shows, but I've described exactly like how I interpret these clusters of standard deviation bands. It's effectively a psychological map because your brain is really good and human brains are really good at intuiting statistics. And in fact, they've done experiments that show this very clearly, that when the deck is stacked against you, even just slightly, your physiological markers very quickly start to show. Your palms get sweaty, your heart rate increases. As opposed to when the deck is stacked slightly in your favor, those things don't happen. So your brain is actually, and brains in particular, and neural networks in general, are pretty good statistical processing machines, and especially in aggregate, like humanity or society or traders. Let's say in this specific context, traders in aggregate are pretty good statistical machines. It's like the M&M jar. If you ask how many M&Ms are in a jar and you ask 1,000 people, you're going to get really close to the actual answer, as opposed to just asking, say, like 10 people. So that's what we're looking at with these bands, with these upper standard deviation bands, lower standard deviation bands. This is unique, by the way. Nobody has this, and it's insane how well it works. I've seen this thing work very well in certain cases. So yeah, it's not astrology, bro. It's exactly like, let's go to Bitcoin now. It's exactly the same how looking at the regression analysis of Bitcoin is not astrology either. This is actually a process that I would apply to any, or sorry, this is a methodology that I would apply to any process, right? So here's the BLX chart. Let's just clear that and then go to the regression analysis. All right, I can demonstrate to you with like valid use of statistical means that this regression analysis, this modeling of Bitcoin is better than all the other models out there. I can prove that. And I've used this process professionally as a semiconductor process engineer. And I've seen it used in other contexts professionally as well. And it's not astrology, right? This is not astrology. This is a basic tool, statistics 101, that I would apply to any process, any time series process you can apply this to and use it for extrapolation. You have to understand that you shouldn't make a reification fallacy, right? The math is not the process, right? The map is not the territory. The map is not the terrain, but it does give you an idea. It's useful. It tells you, it can reveal underlying economic processes. And I think that's what we're looking at. So yeah, since we're here on the Bitcoin regression analysis, we might as well take a look how close we are to the top, because as you approach the red line, this is DCA out, and basically anything between the blue and the green is DCA in. So yeah, at the moment, we're kind of in no man's land, if you will, but it's difficult. Again, it's hard to think this is the top. Maybe that's how they're going to take me, right? That's how they're going to smash me at the top and take all my money. Maybe, but I'm never selling, at least not Monero. I sold Bitcoin long ago. And then I use other coins. I mean, I have Bitcoin now too, as well. But you know, a big chunk of my stack got sold a long time ago. So yeah, anyways, yeah, hopefully that explains a little bit for why we're not just doing, you know, astrology for boys and men here. There's actually some validity to it, and obviously that regression analysis has a much higher statistical validity than the clustering of the standard deviation bands and whatnot. But it's still very, very useful. Even the standard deviation bands. Okay, so we're on the weekly chart. We're looking here at Bitcoin, and we fell out of sort of this the main uptrend, but that's such a short-term time frame. That's not really a huge deal that was rejected, because we're basically it still looks to me like this. I don't know, guys. I don't have any opinions here on where it goes in the short term. I think we left off back here at the beginning of December, and I was like, last time I talked to you guys, I said, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of bullish overall, right? Things have been relatively flat, maybe a little bit down, a little bit up, a little bit down. I'm still bullish in general. I still think that there's more juice to be squeezed here. So I don't think that like the macro crash is upon us just yet. Let's drop into a shorter time frame here and take a look at this pattern. And basically, what you're going to see is that Bitcoin has on the shorter time frame, you know, it pumped up, and now it's basically establishing a new band right here, right? So it's establishing sort of these bands. So it's going to take a little bit of doing to get out of this range for some period of time, but eventually, you know, just like we saw it back here on the main pump to the upside when that started, and we said, hey, 100,000 is imminent. And I'm actually proud of that call, guys, because I didn't ever call for 100,000 literally until, like, for the past 3 years, I had not been calling for 100,000 until right about here. And I said, hey, we just, you know, all of this band structure looks very, very bullish. Trump just got elected president. You know, this thing is very likely going to 100,000. So it didn't take me 3 years for that call to manifest. It took about like a week or 2 weeks, whatever. So anyways, yeah, I guess just tooting my own horn a little bit. I'll shut the hell up there and quit bragging. No one wants to hear that shit. So anyways, yeah, it's going to take a little bit of effort to get out of this range right here. Probably usually these bands will cap the range for a little bit. Again, you know, people in aggregate tend to notice, hey, you know, okay, there's this new range, short term, right? You got short term traders, et cetera. And the emotional component always comes into play there as well. And all these are factors, right, that comprise the market. So overall, I would be looking to try to touch the top of these purple bands here. This is a unique statistical concept where you sort of take the derivative. It's sort of like an acceleration metric of standard deviation. So when standard deviation starts expanding, whether because you're crashing or pumping in price, the purple lines are sort of like an acceleration. You're saying, okay, well, how fast is it expanding? And then you add that on top of the standard deviation, and actually has been scary accurate in some cases, particularly on longer time frames, right? Shorter time frames are a little bit more difficult, but I am looking to probably tag this up here, and that's at some point that 120 area, that 130 area, I might start getting a little bit more concerned, but okay, we'll just we'll set that aside for now. Like I said, I'm not super confident on any which way the Bitcoin markets want to go in the immediate term. I still think there's probably more upside before this thing, you know, has a really major catastrophe, like a macro catastrophe or whatever. Same kind of story here on the total crypto market cap. Let's take a look here. Zoom. I'm also looking for this guy ultimately to try and see these purple bands up here. I'm ultimately looking for things to get somewhere to that area, right? So, yep. Let's see. Not much to be said there. It looks very similar to the Bitcoin price. Shitcoins aren't really doing anything. Just, you know, this guy right here is not a shitcoin, the one in burnt red, but all of the other ones are basically shitcoins. Let's be honest. Yeah, including the one on top here. They're all basically doing nothing. Everything's just kind of like flat and holding. FTT had pumped like quite bigly for a period of time, but now it's coming back down, I guess. But yeah, so FTT, it looks like they're going to get some kind of resolution. I don't know the specifics of it, but a buddy of mine that good trader, fucking good trader, actually got taken in FTT, unfortunately. But it sounds like that things are going to reach some kind of resolution here, and they're going to restart that exchange. So that's probably why FTT was pumping there. which is basically on that news. So let's see. I guess we're trying to hurry up today. We don't want to like dilly dally on too much extemporaneous stuff. Maybe. Oh, of course we're doing Xano talk. We got to look at the Xano price. Duh. Come on, buddy. Okay. So Xano price looking pretty good, setting new all-time highs. This structure is unequivocally bullish. It still remains bullish. We had actually talked about for a period of time that first like interim top. We said, hey, this thing probably needs to spend some time, doing something like this, establish, some of these upward boundaries. And sure enough, that's basically what happened there. And after enough time had passed, sorry, I'm playing around with the time frames. After enough time had passed, basically tagging these lines, very, very traditional wave magic. I call this standard deviation analysis wave magic. Very, very traditional pattern here where these bands curl up, you're going to touch them, find some support there, and then you're going to travel up along these bands again. And you can see that's basically what's happening. So at this moment, we're looking for this price to continue moving kind of along this trajectory for a period of time. For as long as the bull market continues, it seems to me that Xano is one of these plays that, is probably going to keep going up. So, yeah, Xano's been a good play for quite a while now. It looks to me like there's still probably more to run here. So, okay, let's see. Let's go ahead and go to the macro. No reason to dilly dally too much on the rest of the privacy coins. Is there anything here? Firo, I guess Firo's kind of performing. Actually, Firo kind of has a chart very similar to Monero in terms of the way it's been performing with that volatility. It seems to be decreasing volatility. Nothing else here to talk about. Zcash sort of came to its moving average. Moving averages act like magnets. Again, psychology in general, in aggregate, understands where the average price is, and people tend to regress to the mean, right? Mean regression is a real thing. Okay, so yeah, let's go to the macro here. Let's talk about the reverse repos really quick. Reverse repos are money that gets parked with the Federal Reserve overnight. And for the people in the comments complaining that, we were only going to do technical analysis. No, we look at macro as well. We try to look at news, right? We try to look at the full picture as much as we can. And technical analysis is a part of that, because if you think that people are not looking at technical analysis and that has zero factor in the markets, like it has a factor because everyone looks at it. So like, what do you want me to do, bro? Like it's just a reality. Maybe it's astrology for men, but all the men believed it so hard, we made it real. We did it. Okay. But also news is a factor. Fundamentals are a factor. And the macro is a factor. We talk about this a lot. So the reverse repos are money that gets parked with the Fed overnight. And they get the overnight federal funds rate for doing so, which effectively is money that could go to something risk, right? It could go into crypto, it could go into Bitcoin stock market. Bitcoin is the stock market now. Yay, congratulations, they did it. So yeah, it's weird. We saw this thing happen last year actually, where we had this big spike right before the New Year's. This smashed up, and then right after the New Year's, it came back down. So that happened last year, like all the way back. You know what? We're not going to go all the way back there and look at it. Just trust me. Take my word for it. It happened last year. It was kind of crazy. One thing that would concern me is that if this started going so we came back down, but if this came back up again and this thing starts doing this, that's basically means that big money is leaving somewhere and going into reverse repos. They're seeking safety. They're seeking short-term safety. That would be a sign of risk, right? Of increasing risk. So if we see the reverse repos start to spike, that would be a sign of increasing risk. So again, with the bond market, we look at the bond market. It's about volatility. When you see massive volatility in the bond market, it is typically a sign that big money is moving in or out of bonds, and that there's uncertainty in the market. So for now, there has been no major volatility in bonds. Actually, bond rates have been going up despite the fact that the Fed lowered rates last month. So the one thing that, again, continues to be concerning is that the yield curve continues to uninvert. And this is a pattern that we've seen since forever, that as this thing continues to uninvert, the risk starts to grow higher and higher that the macro crash is upon us. So it's weird because bonds keep going up. Typically, what we're looking for in the historical patterns is this thing's going to curl down and crash violently. That usually means that, like, hey, the macro crash is actually here. Stock market's going to drop 20, 30+%. And then the yield curve inversion starts to do that as well, violently curves to the upside. So yeah, we look at that. So far, nothing concerning here, guys. Like, yeah, I've been singing about this macro crash, but I will let you know when it's incipient. And so far, that's not the case. So it's like, keep that macro crash in your mind. Think about how you're going to leverage that, take advantage of it. It's maximum opportunity. Yet at the same time, always stay flexible. And the direction for now, I mean, it still feels like there's positive pressure on markets, right? It still feels like the direction is up. That could change on a dime. So again, like, you'll have to check this stuff on your own time. Okay, here's the S&P 500. This thing occupies this big channel. Like, this thing has been in this big channel by these two lines for quite a while now, since really the beginning of 2023, which is crazy, right? So we've had 2 years in this upward channel. That is pretty long in the tooth, right? For a single channel to continue to be performing. But hey, who knows? Maybe this thing could continue. And if you guys remember, let's go to the 3-month chart. I just want to show you this big line right here is the line that you draw connecting the 1929 blow off top to the 2000 .com bubble, right? So that's an interesting line. It's a line that's obvious, and I guarantee you all of the big finance bros know what that line is, and they're looking at it too, right? So that is a natural point of resistance, right there. This line right here is the other line we just showed. Okay. Yeah, it's showing us some resistance, but the market is not showing like any significant amount of weakness. It's not even close to this lower boundary here. So the lower rising rising support. So yeah, I mean, for now, I'm not really worried about an imminent market crash. Going back to the macro, let's take a look at gold. Gold is like kind of just chilling. It's really it had a big peak out here at about 2,800, and then has basically just been consolidating. Volatility has been dropping. Right at some point, gold is going to break out of this range. Whether to the upside or the downside, I don't know. It kind of feels like we've entered that sort of phase where the markets continue going up, but gold kind of languishes. Right, this is a common thing. Gold pumps first, and then the rest of the risk markets come with it. And then gold languishes as the risk markets continue pumping. That's a pretty common thing that we see. Let's check the comments one more time here. Okay. Yeah, we won't get into any arguments with Bardic Reels about monkeys flipping a coin. Like, okay, bro, then just turn it off. Don't watch the price report, right? Go somewhere else. If you don't want to make money, that's fine. Like you can just make money somewhere else. Like trading is stupid and difficult. And I don't recommend most people do it, but most of you do need to manage your assets in some kind of form or fashion. And it's also not a bad idea to sell the top if you can identify it. Like if you're confident in it, then you might as well do that and take the money and run, right? You can get back into the market later. It's what I did in 2021 and then got back in 2023 or 2022. So, I mean, I don't know what you want, bro. All right. Anyways. Okay. So US oil, we were talking about this for a long time, right? One of the big patterns that we see is that oil will tend to start falling out of its trend before the macro crash happens. At this moment, oil is pumping. So it's yet another reason why I'm telling you the macro crash just isn't here yet. Maybe it happens right as Trump takes office or like the month after he takes office. I don't know. I thought it would happen. I thought there was a good chance it could happen like Christmas surprise or something, but then I was like, nah, the signs aren't there, right? So again, staying flexible in your mind, saying, hey, here's a thesis that I have. Here's the specific signs I'm looking for to manifest. If those don't manifest, then you're like, okay, the triggers didn't happen, then I'm not going to take that trade. Do I feel a little bit silly for saying we're going to crash on Christmas? Saying that in October, maybe we could crash on Christmas. Yeah, I feel a little bit silly. That's a missed call. But hey, if your ego is going to get in the way, you're not ever going to make money trading. And so again, don't do it. Like if that's you, then just don't trade. But if you're able to like eat your thesis and say, okay, wait a second, let's put that on hold. Then trading might be for you, right? If you can just turn on a dime and say, yep, I was wrong, and then get back on the right side of the market. Okay, anyways, so oil did pump this week. Yeah, it's kind of weird. This is a really weird pattern. Again, with the TA scribbles and whatnot, let's actually clear the wave magic. With the TA scribbles, like you would say, hey, that's kind of weird to actually have this big sort of triangle pattern. And you'll notice that we've drawn it with two separate lines, right? We got this line and then we got this line. So we've kind of drawn it with two separate lines. And so we're sort of like occupying this zone here. It's kind of weird to break out of this big triangle only to come back into it. I mean, it is a pretty clear pattern of this is a pretty significant, this line right here is a pretty significant resistance line, downsloping resistance line. So, I mean, I don't know. Again, this is one of the things we're looking for oil to break down out of this trend. We're looking for oil to get into this zone. And that basically tells us that, hey, the macro crash is probably actually pretty close. So far we haven't gotten there yet. So, okay. We'll let the charts tell us, we'll let the general like synthesis of all the different charts tell us what we should be doing. With that, I don't think there's really much else to talk about here. Hopefully that wasn't too long. I really want to hear this debate. I respect both Zoidberg and Don't Trace Me, bruh. I respect both those guys, so I want to hear what they have to say. Just checking really quick if we didn't miss anything important. I don't think we really, there's nothing else to say. Oh, the Monero transactions. That's the last thing. Actually, it was the first thing, but I missed it. Anyways, our Monero transactions on New Year's. I don't know. I guess you guys were busy celebrating and doing the drugs that you had bought on the dark web a couple days prior. So the transactions dropped off for New Year's, but we're back up a little above 20,000, which is still below our 25 to 30K range. So, if you guys could send some XMR chats, and try and get those transactions back up, I think that would Doug and everyone would appreciate that greatly. With that, I've got nothing else to say. That's all I got to say about that. maybe me and Bardic Reels. Hey, bro, Bardic Reels, if you want to chat about these ideas, you know, and you want to directly have an interface with me, we can debate a little bit in the user help me out, users on stage section later on, probably, you know, in like an hour or so after the guests are done hashing it out. So
buddy,
stoked to hear about that.
How about Monero? How's Monero doing? Is this why the Monero people are attacking me? Is it because Monero is not keeping pace with Xano? I mean, what's going on? The Monero people just seem to be losing it right now.
I've not been able to find Monero on.
And are there
TradingView.
actually Monero people, or is it just the one dude? And like, is there a Monero community?
I don't know if I should, but if you want me to, I can give my take on the Monero guy, the only one that I'm aware of.
Yeah,
it's a quick take. So his name is JW Interim, and he is the lead moderator for Reddit Cryptocurrency. In case you didn't know, Reddit Cryptocurrency is a cesspool of just degeneracy and retardation. And so it was 2021, circa like August 2021. And I was posting about an interview that Sam Bankman-Fried, the jailed FTX founder and CEO, he had done an interview. I can't remember the guy's name, but he had done an interview basically like confessing to his crimes. And it was kind of like it was like a corporately phrased thing. And I was like, how the hell is this guy just straight up confessing to all of this fraud he's doing? So I made a post about it on Reddit Cryptocurrency, and they got like 100 views and up likes immediately. And then it got removed by JW Interim. And then FTX crashed a few months later. And I was like, hey, bro, don't you think you owe your entire community an apology for censoring posts about FTX, trying to warn them that this was an obvious fraudulent exchange? And he was like, no, I don't think I owe anyone an apology, blah, blah, blah. Okay, JW Interim is the guy that created Monero. And after that, I was like, what the hell is wrong with you, dude? And so I've really, really disliked him ever since. And especially
I'm gonna come out and I agree, man. He's a complete asshole. Okay. He really is. I've known him for years. I've been buddy with the guy, and he still just continues to treat me like an asshole on the internet, which like that's just not cool, right? Like a lot of us, we meet up in person, we meet at MoneroTopia, we have real engagements, and then, you know, we continue to do so in our interactions afterward. We then don't then treat the person like a complete stranger and show their other face. And yeah, my experiences with him have not been very positive, and he's really been like bugging out over the Xano thing. Like he's all over it on Twitter, just attacking Xano, attacking me personally, saying that I'm perpetuating a scam. Because Jesus. I allowed Xano to come speak at MoneroTopia. Meanwhile, Monero participates in MoneroTopia too. Granted, they don't like to pay the sponsorship fee. He paid a reduced sponsorship fee because we have the privacy tech projects. Is like that's who funds the conference, right? And so, you know, we negotiated on that for months, which was just a joke. And now, like, after the conference, he's just been attacking me over the Xano thing. And he came to the conference, and his whole talk at the conference was like, "What is a scam?" And obviously, when it worked out, it was Xano is a scam. Xano was the #1 scam of all of everything on the list. While Monero was almost better than Monero in terms of being scammy. And I'm like, and this guy's up here calling everything a scam. Meanwhile, he's the creator of a coin called Monero that was like a joke from the get-go, but somehow it gets a free pass in that it's not a scam, right? And I guess he you know, it's
off the charts.
Like I mean, it has a market cap. It actually, you know, like there's people that are buying this thing. Should they be buying Monero? I don't know. I wouldn't really recommend it. Like, what is Monero doing? It's like it's the test net for Monero. Okay, that's cool. What's the investment thesis without Monero? Like, why would Monero like continue to go up? Like, what value does it have? And you know, why does it even exist as a project? How is Monero not a scam? If people are putting their money in Monero and not putting it into Monero, which we know is a scam, are you scamming these people that should be putting their money into Monero and you're redirecting them into Monero? Like, why is Monero getting a free pass? I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't know. Tux,
some devish people I have heard express some appreciation for the existence of Monero because they have released a couple things and tested a couple things on that chain. I don't know if that's enough to overcome, because man, I was actually worried, not this MoneroTopia, but I was worried that if I saw JWN term, that I'd actually get into a fight with the dude, because I really am disgusted, absolutely disgusted by this individual and the way he conducts himself in the cryptocurrency space.
Yeah, I'm pretty shocked too.
Maybe you should debate him on the show.
Yeah, John Murphy, I won't let him change my principles, right? So like this show has always been an open platform. John Murphy, you're welcome to come up here and talk, and you can engage in the Xano thing. I see you throwing comments out there right now, so you're welcome to come up. Untraceable will run it; he'll ask his questions, but you're welcome to join as well and prosecute to whatever degree you want to prosecute. And then we'll obviously engage back with you and give us our opinions as well. But yeah, we'll leave it at that. Didn't want this to turn into a bashing session of WoW. Like Monero is great. Like the people that have it, sure, you have it, but I don't see why it's any less scammy than Xano, and I don't see why the guy who runs it is in a position to call anything a scam. Really,
especially the way that he supported.
I just got a super chat. I want to get over. Sudo tipped 50 cents. Hey, Bonnie, thanks again for your contribution. When can we buy your regression analysis indicator?
Bro, it's free. If you go to my profile,
it's on a trading view, right?
Just go to Bounty Anarchist, go to scripts, and then you'll see that I published the Bitcoin regression price boundaries. Maybe it's not aptly named, but yeah, you just have to go to my profile and you'll find it along with Z-scores. I don't publish the wave magic. Sorry, guys, that one's just a little bit too. I got to hold that one a little bit closer to the vest.
Too juicy.
It's too juicy. If someone wants to buy it for like $1 million, I'll sell it to you. But it's a
common body W helping the common man with his free trading view scripts.
Z-scores are a pretty cool one.
Andres says Monero is not a scam because it says it's a scam outright. Right, I know that's the perfect. John Murphy came up with the perfect scam. He protected himself from being called a scammer by playing this card of, oh well, it is a scam, ha ha ha. As he continues to like subtly move get people to buy Monero. Right? I mean, come on, man. Come on. That's a charade. It's ridiculous. Sorry, guys. It's just like I think Body. This is the first time I heard this story from Body, so now I know I'm not crazy. This has been my interaction with the guy, and I watched this talk, right, and he says we have to be vigilant. We have to call out scams and scammers. So I'm calling out John Murphy, right? That's what I'm calling out right now.
Hey, John, why don't you hop up here on Viewers on Stage and apologize to everyone on Reddit Cryptocurrency for removing posts trying to reveal the scams and frauds that FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried was pulling? Because you removed that post, and it was a detailed breakdown of exactly how he was effectively confessing to all these frauds. But you never did that. You just diverted and made a bunch of excuses for yourself. Come up and apologize, man. I think you owe everybody an apology, at least the people whose forums you run.
Well, before we get into the weeds of Monero debate, let's go ahead and move on to the Xano debate. And
let's do it.
We can finish talking about Monero after, or maybe
next show.
Maybe next show we can have John Murphy come on and you can grill. But yeah, thank you, Body, as always, for your TA, even though some people don't really like it.
That's fine. I mean, they're not totally wrong, right? There's an aspect of truth to what
I
saying,
think people love it. You know what it is? We just got larger now. I mean, we have almost 700 live viewers right now, so we're gonna get more riffraff in here. So
that's
but
good.
Overall,
riffraff.
Yeah,
bring it on.